Welcome back to the broadcast, and of course the next session will be based on facts and figures that we might not delve into, but they inform what we discussed this morning. Just looking at, the young Kenyans and the fact that they make up 35% of the population. And of course, they face a dire lack of employment, job opportunities. They worry as to what really needs to be done to change that. They want to seek, greener pastures abroad. A majority of them have actually done that, but they always come back home frustrated. Some come with beautiful stories, but, lately such has not been the case. So we recently carried a story where police had unearthed a syndicate of, trafficking Kenyans abroad, with many arguing that, once they're taken to these places, even in war-torn areas, Ukraine cases, and you want to ask yourself just how much, are they safe when they cross borders to those other sides. Reality is that they paint a grim picture. And so as we get to this conversation, I want to invite the guests that are going to help us unpack this, basically just picking their views as to what needs to be done to, adjust this for the better. So like I had earlier mentioned, we have Bosco Mutegi. I would consider him to be the person who's next to me, policy and governance analyst. Bosco, thank you so much for creating time. The middle is Ivy Mushoki, the girl of the day, and of course, national coordinator VAR. She'll tell us what that is all about. And last but not least, we have John Kamau, the national chairperson, New Generational Aspirants. Karibuni sana. Fairly youthful faces on board. We continue talking about many young Kenyans seeking jobs abroad. And some actually argue that it's actually at a bad state, especially at this point when, we are getting to the election year period. But it appears like they have lost it all in terms of hope. And they say we have to go forward on the other side and get to see what is there. The irony of it all is that we have other people or youth from other countries, DRC, Rwanda, flocking the country. And this is greener pastures for them. Bosco, what do you make of this?
Thank you very much, Linda, for the invitation to help us discuss this important topic on the issues that are affecting us as the young people. Because when it comes to unemployment in this country, it is at an alarming figures. And what we appreciate is the government is doing what they are calling the labor mobility. And what we have seen is it is a good idea, yes, but now it has risks, and the events of people when they go out there, what they experience, what is not maybe what they expected, because we have a population in Africa. There's a very high population of young people who are very innovative, who have the skills and all that, but they don't have the opportunities. So people who have the skill, people who have qualified, are more likely to look for those jobs more than the young, the older, and people maybe who have retired may not be able to look for these opportunities. But the risk of it is that we have no Kenyan, first of all, should suffer while trying to survive or look for an opportunity out there. On the flip side, the government of Kenya should focus on how to increase more opportunities for the youth in Kenya. We have seen the government doing all what the government is doing on affordable housing, on sports, construction, the jobs online and all that. But I think the government needs to do more. And there needs to be a very good link between the recruiting agencies, the embassies on the other side, to look on the welfare of these people when they go there out to work.
Before we even get to the government, the reality is that as a country, we're trying so much to create an environment that allows us to be creative, or allows us to be creative. Today, we're talking about skill-based, kinds of trainings that will get us being more hands-on than literally waiting for white-collar jobs, than literally waiting for the government to, create these opportunities. Do you suppose that we have set the standards way too high? or what exactly is happening? Because if you're going to see, youth from other countries flocking the country, and they settle in here and they're conducting businesses, they are doing so much and they're earning a living, yet our youth continue to say that we lack employment. What is this that, gets us to that level? Is the bar too high, or we're expecting too much, or we cannot even see the opportunities around us?
Okay, thank you so much, Linda, for that question. First of all, on the aspect of unemployment, I just want to take it back to the year 2002, where His Excellency the late Mwai Kibaki gave us the aspect of free education. This is something that in the East African space, or in the East African countries, Kenya was the first to actually deliberate on this. And now we are coming into an age or an era whereby we now, the young people who are educated during that time have now come of age. And now this era has come of age, and it now needs employment opportunities. So it looks like, it's like our systems were not prepared or planned for this demographic, because the demographic of unemployment is about 12.7%, with an age bracket of 18 to 35 people. Yep. Over 67% of young people are not employed. So we're looking at different kind of ways in which we can actually enhance these employment opportunities. So I can say, first of all, that Kenya is a very blessed nation. It is a country that actually speaks volumes for the continent. If you look at the demographic positioning of Kenya, it actually looks like the heartbeat of Africa. Yeah. So I must admit that Kenya actually has very diverse opportunities for the East African continent. So I would not actually look at it in a bad way that other countries or other people are coming into Kenya to actually look at the systems of how can Kenya benefit me? What can I learn from here? The truth is, our education system is very high. We have really set the bar high. We've set the bar high. As many young people, the digital era, you're seeing our social media flocking, the young people on Twitter, the young people on the TikTok. We are the ones who have a say. So you can see the demographic of learned young people who have come of age are now entering into the digital era, the digital space. So this is a space that now needs to be convened. It needs to now be set up policies that can actually create jobs for them. So I must admit that we as Kenya are actually standing at the bar. And that's why other countries or other people are coming, flogging into Kenya saying, what can we get from Kenya? What is it that they've done that we have not done as a nation? So I believe Kenya is a blessed land, and we can actually learn from this. And the government can actually be able to twist and turn systems to be able to work for it. Because Kenya, we just went through a revolution, a Gen Z revolution, an economic liberation where young people are saying, we want money. We want a way in which we can actually provide for our younger generations. You're seeing them now starting to give birth, starting to actually procreate and create families from themselves, but they're not able to feed these families. So we need to actually synthesize and figure out what are the systems that can actually be able to create a better economic system for our young people. How can we be able to delve into this and create more propelling systems, especially in this digital era?
Right. And Ivy could be right when she says that this is a generation that perhaps we were not prepared for, based on the kind of education that they got, the proximity to it, and the fact that many, embraced it. But the question of unemployment is something that we have been trying to address for decades, John. We have seen policies and programs that have been developed to help us tackle this kind of menace. For the longest of time, I know, and perhaps this is not unique to Kenya, but Africa and I mean even the bigger brothers. What do you suppose it is that we are actually not doing right as a nation so that we can be able to tackle this?
Thank you. I want to paint a picture before I even go to that, because looking at an average young person in this country, and most of us actually come from families which struggled to actually pay our school fee. As much as Kibaki brought in the free primary education, proceeding to the secondary education was a hard task for most of us. And the most recent example is the two girls that actually trended this week, who actually had refused to go back to school because they had been shamed for not going to school with their pants on. Fortunately or unfortunately, I went to that school, Kinana Primary School, and I relate with those little girls 100%. And I know that it is possible for parents nor to actually even afford those pants in that area. And therefore, you can imagine what's going through their heads. They are now going to school. They know what, okay, it's very difficult to actually even interact with the others. And everyone that went to that family, because I saw people streaming into that family to help them, which is a good thing, was telling them that you will make it one day. You just work hard in school, you will make it. Then it turns out that they finish their schools and they can't get employed in this country. Those are people who are scared of poverty. Those are people who dread that their children would one day suffer what they have suffered. Those are people whose mission now is to run from poverty or whatever they are going through at their own homes. So after completing schools and there are no opportunities in their own country, they'll take any risks. And that's why they are, you've said that many people are willing to take these risks, despite the reports of what has happened to most of those that have gone outside the country. But what have we not been doing right as the country? You've mentioned a lot of policies have been formulated in this country to try and, of course, fix the unemployment problem in this country. But you realize that the population, of course, has been going up. So whatever policies you formulate must have it in mind that the population is increasing at a very, very high rate. Secondly, we've not seen goodwill on the part of the implementation. You've not seen goodwill. For example, I've seen a number of policies. The latest one, I think, was the one that was formulated in 2019. I think youth development program that was supposed to actually come and deal with the problem of unemployment. But how much of that do we hear? Even when we are coming with this finance bill or whatever we are coming up with, how much of that youth development program do we get to hear? Or any other policy for that matter do we get to hear? When it comes to, for example, ICT, an area that most of the Kenyan youth have delved into to try and solve the unemployment problem, you realize that there is, in as much as the government is saying that we are trying to increase the opportunities in the ICT space, but even the implementers of this have a problem. And I have a problem that someone like Abogo would be the Minister of ICT at this age. That's someone who has lost imagination. He can't just imagine with the speed that these young people can imagine. We are now talking of the artificial intelligence. And therefore, anyone who occupies such a space and wants to create more opportunity when it comes to the ICT area, then must be someone who is quick in mind, someone who understands the, how the world is moving, someone who can imagine jobs, because some of these jobs come, even myself, they come so fast that some of them pass me. So you want to see very creative people occupying such spaces such that they can create an environment that is conducive for more people to be to benefit from that.
And Bosco, you'll allow me to quickly ask this to Ivy, who I'll expect that she just touches on it briefly. We acknowledge that we create a conducive environment for our brothers to come in and they get something for themselves, which is a good thing. What do you make of Kenyans traveling abroad in search of greener pastures? I look at the stats that we have, and this is from the Foreign Affairs Ministry, indicating that, as of around 2023, we saw a huge population in the diaspora, hitting around 4 million, where we have doctors, nurses, IT, and other, individuals actually proceeding to that side for greener pastures. One wants to ask, is this not a brain drain? And is it not grossly impacting on the economic or socio-economic fabric of the nation? What do you think about that? Is it a beautiful thing to see, some of us actually going abroad and with all that wisdom and with all that skill that they have, gained, taking it abroad, and we continue to miss out in the country?
First of all, I must admit it's a very sad ordeal, Linda, because our young people have the capacity to actually change the systems in this country. They have the capacity to actually change the systems in the continent. So one of my opinion is I don't believe that the young people should go abroad actually looking for greener pastures. I know some of the conducive environments that they have are really unfortunate. You'll see like 58% of them are actually running away from poverty. Others are just looking for greener pastures. They just want want a different kind of lifestyle, a different kind of way of living, trying to look up to themselves, trying to see how can we be able to fortify ourselves, strengthen ourselves to make something of themselves, because, you know, we're in this age of, as I said, digital era, this social media era. When you go online, you're seeing people buying luxury cars, luxury lifestyle, like the demand is so high, the pressure is on the roof, and young people are really looking at themselves and saying, why don't I have this? Why can't I be able to afford this? Maybe I should go to those areas and actually look for greener pastures. But I believe that we can actually change that demographic. We can change that situation. And that situation is being changed because I believe His Excellency the President leading the reforms in this continent. These are some of the ideas and some of the systems that he should be advocating for, especially in UNGA, because this is the demographic of young people that even the abroad countries are looking up to. We have over 60 to 70% in the continent of young people with no jobs, with no capacity to actually work. So how can we be able to use this labor force and create something even enigmatic, something that can blow up the country? We are talking about manufacturing. We are talking about investing in green businesses. We're talking about creating a climatic, solutions for the continent, renewable energy. I mean, young people are ready to actually devolve these ideas and make them so systematic for themselves. And these are the places where we can create opportunities. So the government needs to drive these incentives. They need to drive these agendas. Manufacturing is very big. I mean, Dangote is actually becoming one of the biggest billionaires in this country because of the manufacturing industry. So how can we be able to disseminate that information to our young people so that they can learn, okay, how can I become a manufacturer? Kirdi should be at the forefront of this. They're the ones training our young people to be able to develop products. So these are the institutions that needs to be strengthened. There needs to be more emphasis, more money, more resources placed in actually making our young people to be able to know how can we be able to better ourselves using this kind of instruments.
Have we invested so much or enough in making our young people to understand their capability, to get them, have that spark out, and for them to understand how creative they can get? Because Bosco, you wear so many hats. Bosco one day is a politician. Before you know it, he's deep in business and, hands-on, literally arcing a living. Before you know it, he's on TV making analysis as to how we can make the nation better. Have we really tapped into this? Is it because you have some element of privilege, based on the people you work with? Or it's a whole different thing? And what will it take for us to make sure that this same spirit is injected in our youth so that they don't have to think abroad, but think of what they can do in the country and, arc a living and at the same time make the country better?
Thank you very much, Linda, for that question. From where I sit, I think if you look at public participation in this country, there has been a problem with our public participation, and that's where sometimes in this government, in this country, we go wrong. Article 232 of our Constitution provides for public participation, where the government should involve the people when they're making policies. So what am I saying with this? The government, first of all, to avoid even the issues we have seen with the Gen Zs, should involve them in their issues. We should go to the Gen Zs where they are, be it in the Instagram, be it wherever in the social medias, and where all these platforms. Hear their ideas. Before you bring your own ideas, what you want to implement on how to solve the unemployment, ask them, what do you really need? Because you may be assuming this child wants affordable housing, or this person with a degree needs affordable housing. And maybe this person just needs internet in his village so that he can be able to apply for a job online in a country, in US, in wherever the country you may think about. If you look at our Constitution, also provides, I think in Article 43, provides for the social and the economic aspect of the Kenyan. That is, we are talking about the food, health, and all that. That cannot be achieved if you don't have the economic aspect of it. If you are not earning, you cannot stay in Kenya when you don't have something you're doing to earn a living. So now, when it comes to this, the young people are stopped at some point because of having not contributed to what entails in their unemployment issues. When you look at what is affecting our young people, as Ivy has rightly said, when it comes to issues of industrialization, issues of manufacturing, issues of value addition, these are the areas that the government should concentrate more to help increase the employment. When you talk about unemployment levels, in every year, over 1 million young people come out of for the job market. I'm saying that when you look at the primary level, when they do KCP, there are people who don't go to high schools or they don't go to any other thing. At high school, there are some people who don't go to university and they just go to the job market. There are people at TVET level. Once they do this, get the skill, they go to the job market, the university, and the same thing. So what can we do to help create more and more opportunities for these young people? I think, as she says, industrialization is one of them.
All right.
And also, as we proceed, you realize there are things that, like corruption, that stop investors from having coming to invest here. Someone said, as she said about Dangote. Dangote one time came with a very interesting proposal to invest here in Kenya. He was stopped by kickbacks from being asked by kickbacks from government officials. So these are the things that are stopping our youth from getting more opportunities. But now when it comes to a young person who has a skill and now has gone out there to look for an opportunity to better his life, and is stopped by, let's say, by a dubious agent who has been vetted by the government, but now the agent, when he released him, I have an example. From my village, there's a lady who had looked for an opportunity in Canada. He got this opportunity. She didn't understand what is it called? This visa, visit visa. She went there with a visit visa. All of a sudden, the employer, or rather the agent who had promised her the job, she got stranded there. And now you find sometimes, as I said, there's a link between the embassy and the recruitment agencies, because now the agencies are vetted by the National Employment Authority. But you realize that link needs to be made stronger.
Right.
There needs to be consistency, needs to be improved, so that our people you don't go look for opportunity, then you die in the process of looking for an opportunity. It is very unfair.
And I think we need to expound some more on that. John, this is the reality that is happening. Sometimes when we're talking about this, we're focused much on the Gulf, but such is not the case. Most of the Kenyans you interact with that are in the diaspora will tell you, if I had money, I would rather be home. If things were favorable at home, I would rather be home. One would want to ask themselves, is it because they are discouraging people from going abroad because, well, they don't want us to be, so many of us to be domiciled there, or so many of us to, find, greener pastures on the other side or enjoy this? Or is it genuine that things are not as good on the other side? So then we ask ourselves, reality is that these are hardworking Kenyans. They have gone to that space in search of greener pastures, and therefore it is incumbent upon the government to protect them. Are we doing enough to ensure that, okay, it is not good at home, but you have traveled abroad, and your government follows up to ensure that yours is an easy stay when you are on the other side?
People are saying that the government is exporting labor, but to me it is actually state-sponsored human trafficking. Because, as he has said, so many people, especially young, who get out of this country in search of jobs through these dubious, most of them are dubious agencies, which are again owned by some of the high state officers. You realize that once they're out of this country, the government cannot tell where they are and what they went to do. You've just talked of so many doctors have gone out, so many nurses have gone out, so many ABCD have gone out. But are they doing what they learned in school? They are not. If you ask most of those people who've traveled, who traveled out of this country, those nurses, you talk to them and you realize they've been turned into something else. They are nannies somewhere. You thought they went to practice medicine, which they learned in school. But the moment they get there, they're just turned into gardeners and those kind of jobs. So and we've seen these actually being practiced by even, some government agencies. You remember Uasin Gishu case, where, the county government of Uasin Gishu, I think it was back in 2021, told people to give it money because they were going to be taken to, I think it was
Finland?
Yeah, for jobs. But that never happened, and those parents lost money. They sold all they had so that the county government was in Gishu, can facilitate them to go outside and get employed. But you realize that never happened. So what is happening in this country is that the government is claiming that is exporting labor because, of course, we have these skills. And I'll admit, you see these Ugandans that you're saying are coming to Kenya, these Rwandese that are coming to Kenya, I've seen them work in this country and they are desperate. They take as little as 100 Kenya shillings. For a Kenyan, they cannot work for 100, but maybe that's the status of your home. You want to change your home. You cannot start by earning 100 shillings, 100 Kenya shillings at home. Yeah. You want to change your home. So Kenyans are preferring to move out of this country because they cannot just take 100 bob, and they are not as desperate as those that are coming from Rwanda, those that are coming, for example, from Congo. They are running from war and they are coming into this country and anything would do. But for these ones, they've been properly educated on a promise that they'll get employed in their own country. And you see in Kenya, because of the information that we have, we can see all the corruption that is happening. You can see the kind of luxury that the politicians are in and the kind of, they're just splashing opulence in the very eyes of Kenyan people. So when Kenyans see that, they lose hope, because if these are the same people who are supposed to make life better for you, these people are supposed to create employment for you and create an environment for you where you can come and work and make a living. But instead of doing that, they are benefiting themselves. They prefer going outside the country. So we are not protecting our people. They are dying. Personally, last time I tried to trace one who had gone to Gov, and actually NEA really frustrated me. The Ministry of Diaspora frustrated me. That girl was lost for almost a year. She was arrested in Gov. She only came back after a whole year into this country after I tried writing so many letters to them. And that's just an isolated case. If you go to TikTok, because now the government is not disseminating the real information, you realize that they've now formed groups and they're now sharing the kind of suffering that they are going through, not only in the Gulf countries, even the others. So the Alabuga case, for example, where people went to Russia, the women, and actually they were targeting women, hoping that they were going to get good employment, but they were turned into, they went into military camps and they were doing military-related stuff, which are not good for women, which are not healthy. They are living in deplorable conditions. You cannot trace where they are. The environment is controlled. Yet these people went out of this country. And most of these jobs actually are advertised by embassies. So they went believing that the government is aware of this opportunity. But getting there, you realize that things are totally wrong. You'll also remember a story that was done, lastly,
make it brief,
in Thailand. Of people who actually went to Thailand hoping for a good job, but they went and were turned into scammers, and the government struggled to bring them back home. So that is the status of our country, that the government is actually facilitating human trafficking, and they cannot guarantee the welfare of the people that they traffic out of this country.
Bosco, you want to say something?
I wanted to say something. I agree with him. I associate myself with his comments, but I wanted to say something. First of all, let's understand that Kenya is not that desperate, that it cannot be able to provide employment for its young people. When I talked about the 1 million people, it does not mean that Kenya doesn't have ability to provide employment for all these people. Let's agree that the government cannot be able to employ all these 1 million people in government. So what should the government do? The government should provide a conducive environment for the private sector to be able to create employment for these people. And I will tell you this. I employ young people in my business, and I will tell you that this is the time that the government needs to think on how to change policy making. The policy making of the government in regards to labor relations should align with the trends of the Gen Z today. I will tell you, if you employ a Gen Z, they will prefer, the Gen Zs, first of all, they run away from anything that is conventional. So they want things done their way. And why don't we do it the way they want it? For example, this is the time that the government of Kenya should think of changing policies on dress code, for example. As long as the dress code, the young people say it's the brain that works and not the clothes. The government needs to think about the policy on work from home. Because why would I come to the office, stay there 8 to 5, is something which I could have done from my house, and sometimes maybe I'm unaware or I have a child or I have an issue that I can handle. So I'm just saying that if the government wants to really give an opportunity, an equal opportunity for these young people to get into employment, be it in government or in the private sector, I think we need to amend our policies to align with what the Gen Zs want. The Gen Zs want to come, not necessarily in jeans, but an outfit they feel comfortable, even if it's branded. You get? I saw the CS for public service the other day saying the people can go with a jersey when we had Chan the other day. So it's doable.
Yeah, and I mean, that is just one of so many things that they would want, you know, adjusted perhaps in favor of them.
And with that, you will be able, the government will be able to tap in a lot of innovation, creativity, which these young people have.
Okay.
But as long as you limit them to come to 8 to 5, I'll give you, allow 1 second to give you an example. I work with them and I can tell you, even if you say they work from 8 to 5, a Gen Z can come to your office for 3-4 hours and he does that job with this job here 8 to 5. He does it within those 3 hours in a very perfect and innovative way that you could have never thought about.
Well, interesting. We come back to that, but briefly, perhaps the government is at that catch-22 situation, you know, because it's a delicate balance for them. I don't think there's a government that has, you know, exported labor or has created opportunities for exporting labor as their initiative as this one, you know, looking at our history and the governments that have been there before. And you want to ask yourself, why should a government educate its youth and end up, you know, benefiting advanced economies already, you know, sending them to the US, sending them to the European countries? I mean, what happens to all this creativity that is supposed to be used at home, that is supposed to be tapped to make the country better? And I know you've talked about that, but don't you think it's such a delicate balance for the government that sees that really maybe at home, we have not yet gotten to that level that you know, Bosco says where we can create these employment spaces? I mean, we must find something that is short-term to address the concerns before we look at the long-term picture. And maybe that's the reason why the government says, well, let's try and come up and agree with you know, other countries and other governments on how we can export labor so that we don't have youth that are just lingering around without employment.
Yeah. So one of the things that, Linda, that I really like about your question is that you're trying to define how is it that we can create these jobs within our own country, within our own systems to work for us. And I want to just maybe disagree with my panelist here, John, that as much as the ICT is being led maybe by a CS who's not young, I believe that the ICT has embraced a lot of young people in their headquarters. I'm seeing a lot of young people. I'm even seeing the Huduma Center. Young people are even wearing the shirts. They're wearing the different shirts, the jeans every day to work. So I'm just saying it's already doable. So we need to just work with these institutions, strengthen them. ICT is one of the biggest. We're in the digital era. We're in the AI era. How can we be able to actually use this kind of systems to be able to create these jobs? We can do the work. We can actually even have our people from here working overseas, but online. Online opportunities.
Which is happening,
great, and it's already happening. It can employ over hundreds of thousands of young people in this country. I believe that's where the trajectory is going. The crypto markets, the foreign markets, everything. I mean, we have so much opportunity in Kenya because we're already learned. We have the skills. We have the people who actually, as we said, the Gen Zs, the reason why they're very special is because this is a demographic of young people who are born with phones and digital things in their hands. So they don't know another way. They know this fast way. That's why they're very fast, very catchy, that when you tell them about a constitution, they'll read it within 1 minute and even disseminate the information to you because that's how they've learned. And now the government seeing that, they need to now embrace this fast learned kind of young people and tell them, how do we embrace these young people? How do we embrace their fastness, their forward thinking, their critical thinking? How can we embrace it into our systems to actually connect? Because there seems to me like a generational divide. There's this generation that is used to maybe typing computers very slowly, but there's this generation that's coming up and is already ready for the job space that can type maybe even one page in less than 20 minutes because they've been born with this gadgets in their hands. So they need to be embraced. They need to be heard. They need to be asked. What is it that you want to see changed in the systems? What do you want to see in the new Kenya? How do you want to re-envision a new Kenya that actually sustains you, makes you better, makes you feel like you're actually living the place that you want to?
Ivy, in their fast forwardness, they are vulnerable, perhaps more vulnerable to trafficking and to some of this, environments that are hostile for them. Because the reason why, again, we're having this conversation is because of the recent cases that we have witnessed today. And you look at a majority of these individuals that we're talking about, you know, stuffed in a room, desperate, stranded, perhaps looking forward to go back home. They are pretty much the kind of generation that we're talking about. The age bracket, it tells you that something is amiss, that these are people who are woke, you know, they understand technology, yet they still fall prey to this trafficking. They still fall prey to these promises of greener pastures on the other end, and such is not happening. So, I mean, is this a double-edged sword?
For me, I believe that this is actually something that cuts across aspect of poverty. Most young people who are going abroad, or these people who are looking to seek job opportunities out there, are actually looking for a way to actually come out of this poverty-stricken system. They're trying to break from a cycle that maybe their generations and generations have been coming from. It's very sad. But the truth is something our governments can do something about this. How can we create bilateral ties with these countries? What are the labor laws? What are the labor protection laws that can be emphasized? What are these maybe working with government or this kind of institutions like UNODC, how can they be able to partner with the governments to be able to track, especially these defrauding kinds of people who are taking people abroad? How can they be held accountable? Because we're in an era where young people are asking for accountability. These institutions that are coming to say, oh, we can take you, give us 100,000, they should be flagged. There should be a system that actually says, okay, these are the institutions that have been verified. Okay. These are the companies that take you abroad and they have been verified. They've been vetted. There needs to be vetting systems, verification of who these people are, so that even it looks like the government is supporting these institutions. As he said, that the private sectors are the ones driving these agendas. How is it that we can actually make sure that these people are actually doing the right thing? Because at the end of the day, when these people go abroad, there's nobody monitoring them. Even the embassies that are there don't even know some of them that they're there. So how is it that those bilateral ties can be strengthened? What can we be able to stop this trafficking? How can we be able to monitor those people immediately that they've landed in that country? How can we be able to even get reports that what are they doing? How are you finding ends meet? How are you actually deliberating? How are you even getting food on the table? Where are you living? What are your living conditions? There should be officers literally coming there and actually taking down information and taking down this notes to say, okay, this person is living in a good condition. This person has food every day. This person has an annual wage of this. There should be literally systems and structures that work. And this is yes, because at the end of the day, that's why we created the Ministry of Diaspora. What is it there for?
And I think that's where policy then comes in. Steve Odhiambo says it's not the government's role to create jobs. That's for the private sector. Well, the government should create enabling environment to encourage private sector investment in manufacturing, industrialization, and the likes. These are sectors with capacity to absorb large volumes of unemployed youth, pretty much what you people have alluded to. So then we come to the question of policy, and we ask ourselves, and we ask, Bosco, as you come in, and make it tight because we only have like 3 minutes to close. What are some of the policy interventions that we need to have so that they can create a shift, to make sure that things are shifted to an angle where it's all good?
I've not taken my take.
Okay, take it. It's not like we're saying it's not a round thing, but all the same, it's fine.
I donate 1 second to him.
Not donate.
A second?
I donate.
A second is gone. We have
okay.
When it comes to the issue of policy and the areas that to actually look forward to absorbing the young people when they are ready for the job market, these areas, most of them are sports. The other is MSMEs. That's another department that actually employs so many youth. And the other department is ICT. So looking at those departments, the Ministry of MSMEs is actually headed by a former governor, a retired governor. The moment the government came in, the sports department was given to a former governor. Looking at the ICT ministry headed by a former governor, you realize that these are areas that need a lot of creativity for them to actually absorb as many youths as possible. But then you've taken these areas and you've given them to people who are tired and actually should be home. these are not people who are able to imagine and be as creative as I can be. Remember, I am at my prime, and so many youth are at their prime. And therefore, they are always thinking about solutions and what needs to be done to better lives. But now, these are areas that you've given to someone who actually should be with their grandchildren at home. And these are the areas that actually needs creativity.
Yeah.
Policies formulated, those are policy formulating, the CSs are the ones who formulate these policies. But again, you've just given them to
in their teams, they have these young tags, to be honest.
It's okay, but the question is, what do we see from those teams? The buck stops at them. It stops at the CS.
Okay.
So if the CS is not as imaginative, how will we work together? These young thugs are always ahead of these men, and men are so, these old people.
We have to close ahead.
Yeah, you just allow me to have
No, there's no
It's okay,
time.
we are closing. So I'm saying that these people who are heading these departments, yes, they have young people who are working with them. But again, these young people are way ahead of them. And they at times make them insecure of their positions because the kind of reasoning these young people, they cannot work together. So what I'm suggesting as I close is this: let these departments be headed by creative minds so that they may bring up for policies that can work for the young people.
I don't know whether the rest agree as we close, Ivy.
Okay, so one of the things that I want to say about the policy framework and the policy reduction is that it's not just about the young people, it's about this generations working together. It's about how can we submerge ourselves and put our minds together, and the Gen Zs, the boomers, the millennials, how can we come together? How can we have a transgenerational conversation that divides and brings us together in order for us to come up with solutions, systems, policies? How can we be able to create more jobs? How can we be able to dive deeper, and be able to help our country called Kenya? Because if we start to now point fingers that this one has done this one has done, we will not actually have anything. We'll just get chaos or anarchy, and we'll have another war. And we don't need that right now. We need to preach peace, we need to preach love, and we always just need to come up with a system that actually works. Let's be the one that fronts Kenya as what it's supposed to be. We have maybe a lot of problems that we've caused in our country. We have a lot of things that we can actually change. But with the right kinds of systems, the right kinds of policies, with the right kind of mindset change, we can be able to come up with the solutions and policies that are needed to change this country.
Okay, your 1 minute is back to you.
Okay, so the government needs to protect its vulnerable citizens, and that's the young people, because they have the skill, they don't have the employment, they don't have the job. So let us have watertight bilateral agreements with these countries. Ask ourselves, when the president is the #1 ambassador sending the country out there, but the Ministry of the Labor maybe could be failing the president, because now when it comes to the bilateral agreements, the nitty-gritties, as she said, we need to know in every agreement there's an agreement, people agreeing, and the exit plan. Once the person is out there, the opportunity has been lost in that country, the person needs to have a remedy on how either to come back or the embassy to help them to get an alternative job. I want to say something about...
we have to close.
I want to say something about the young people.
Yeah.
I want to remind the young people, tomorrow there's voter registration. So we need to come out as young people, take our votes, and everyone in this country, so that we change this country through the ballot.
Well said. Bosco Mutegi, Kiura, Policy and Governance Analyst, Ivy Mushoki, National Coordinator, VAR. You said VAR is about what again?
It's a Viable Alternative Republic. It's a platform for young people that was born through the Gen Z riots.
Revolution.
And it's where we move from Article 37, which is your right to protest, to Article 38, which is your right to actually petition, your right to now form and even form a political party. So we are saying that we want these young people to transition from the anger that they formed in the Gen Z riot to now actually coming together and finding solutions, so that by the time 2027 comes, there's a framework, there's an order, there's a kind of purpose of where the young people are going.
Okay. All right. John Kamau, don't ask me to ask you what national or new generation aspirants is all about. I think it speaks for itself. So John Kamau, National Chairperson, New Generation Aspirants, asanteni sana, lady and gentlemen. We look forward to have more and more of these conversations, because like we always say, they involve us. It is our business to make the nation better for us. Thank you so much back at home. A massive feedback from your end, but as always, time would not allow us to go through all that. Let's keep the conversation rolling on our socials. That is TV47 Kenya. I look forward to see you again next Sunday. My name is Linda Alela, appreciating the entire team, as well as the sign language interpreter, Catherine Simaloi. Do have yourself a lovely night and a great week ahead.